All right, guys. Well, here we are. I just did like a 15-minute monologue. I'm going to upload it after this video, and I'll put it on the $10 tier. I think that's like the plan moving forward is separating some of my personal life, well, like all of my personal life from the story videos, and not having long introductions, but then also the videos not being as long. You know, it's like you shave like 10, 15 minutes off each video, like 45-minute videos. But I know there's certain people that just want to get like right into the story. So I just have to say this. There is a 15-minute video where I'm talking directly to my ex-wife, who I believe is on this platform, and what I am saying to her about the most recent events and everything. Yeah, that's about it. There's a message to her and whatever else. But monologues from this point forward are just going to be on the $10 tier. It seems like as each tier goes up, as it goes from 10 to 20, and then all the way up to the $100 tier, people get more and more supportive, you know? And it's just been like a real interesting time period for me in the last, I don't know, whatever, week, whatever the fuck it's been. But the monologue is going to go up on that tier, and here I am. I'm going to just do a story video. So there you go. That's, Jesus Christ, I haven't done an introduction that short for a long fucking time. The other one that I did, I think, was okay. Anyway, all right. So this is going to be the 4th of July video, which I know it took like, people want to get back to the other storylines. I get that. I want to just finish this one, or I'll never finish it. And then I'm going to go back and do the origins and like finish all the other stuff and like get rid of all the loose ends. All right. So anyway. Just to recap a bit, because I gotta say, I think when I was initially doing this storyline, I don't even remember. I think I was, 4th of July, I was definitely fucking on one. Even if I said I wasn't, I was. And I'm finally at a place where I'm like, not. And it's whatever, It's like, it's hard to be honest about stuff that's going on in real time, and I think that's why I separate the monologues from the actual storylines. But the point is now this story, all of my stories really happen. It's like not stuff that I just make up, but one thing that I do make up is people's names, and I forget what I called certain characters. So a very slight recap that'll help me. Let me help you. This is the story where I met this businesswoman when I was flying. I think I was flying home from a rehab. I was either flying home from a rehab in Florida, or I may have been flying home from Denver. So I had this like affair with this bartender. Because in the like Denver airport, I had to remember that, and she had like this black dude as a husband, and he like I fucking freaked out. I think that's the time that I flew back. Whatever the case was, when I flew back, I met this businesswoman. She presented herself as a venture capitalist, and I got her business card, and then I was kicking, and I was like in one of those suspension blankets that I used to have. I don't even remember where I got that from. And I ended up going out to dinner with her because she sent me some money, and turns out she was a crack addict. I mean, she's smoking crack, and I knew it. I was like, I do this too. And she's like, oh my God, I like you. I'm like, yeah, I like you too. And then I end up getting invited going to New York for her, for 4th of July. Now, remember I had told you guys that I had the sense that she was married at a certain point, and when I had gotten out there, she stood me up, at the airport. I'd lost my dope. I lost my luggage out there. Back then I had like an old Nokia phone, so I'd lost my phone charger. And I was just like, you know, back in that time period, and probably not too much different than today, I just throw caution to the wind. I'm like, yeah, fuck, who cares? I'm just going to jump on an airplane and see what happens. And typically it goes up and it just ends horribly for me. And that's what happened in this particular case. But at the juncture in the story that we're at, I got out there. Her sister, Becky, had gotten me a cab after I'd been at the airport for a long ass time. I got high in the bathroom in the airport. I remember doing a big ass shot, and by the time her sister got me the taxi, and I'd lost the dope and everything, it was like hours had gone by. So when I get to where she was, and this was in Manhattan, when I get to the building, the doorman made me wait out front, waited out long outside, I don't remember. I just remember I don't know how long I waited out front, but I clearly remember being dope sick by the time this guy let me in the building. I went into this old school elevator. I got stuck in there. I started jerking off. This is completely true too. Probably wait a second. Are we supposed to believe that right when the elevator crashes or stops working, you just tug your pants down and start masturbating? You're not that much of a creep. I am. It's not so much about me being a creep. It's just that when you're dope sick, you masturbate for relief, and Karina's usually a good sport. When I'm dope sick, can I have sex? She's okay. And then I get relief for 10 seconds. But when I'm by myself in an elevator, it doesn't matter where it is, I masturbate. So what? So do you. I just talk about it. No, it's a recurring thing, masturbating when I'm dope sick. So I end up getting caught by by the door guy and by this maintenance guy. They escort me out of this place. Anyway, I don't remember where I'd left off. I really don't. I don't even remember the last time I did this video, but I'm pretty sure that you guys remember that I'd called Jeff. I'd given him some numbers of some of my East Coast friends that I'd met when I was out in Worcester in that writing internship program. A lot of those kids were from New York. It's New York kids, Jersey kids, Boston kids, and they were all just coming to Worcester, Massachusetts for the little internship program. So I gave Jeff was my constant, I could call him from across the country when I was having these adventures, and he would take things down. So he at random weird hours. So he had some phone numbers for me. And God, remembering all of these different characters from what their names were at that point, I'm pretty sure that I went into all of them. I'm just going to talk about them as they come because, anyway. So Jeff, I was on the phone with him and I was just talking to him, and I'm walking down the street. And I'm sorry for this recap. Believe me, it was necessary for myself. I'll time stamp it and I'll just be hey, the recap is at the 9-minute mark, so that you can just jump right into the story for you convenience fighters out there. I'm fighting for fucking convenience, bro. We'll keep fighting. So 9-minute mark is the end of the recap. So I'm walking down the street and I had the cell phone, I'm talking to him and I'm just in la la land. It's always I had talked to a friend the other night on the phone that's having a really hard time with heroin right now. I mean, it's actually really sad, this guy, because he's one of my best friends growing up, and he's a really nice person. He's really positive, and to see him go down the tubes to heroin addiction like that, especially late in the game, he was never addicted to it before. He's 40 now. He's fuck, I feel getting wild. I'm gonna get addicted to heroin, and that's really what happened to him. And he doesn't know how to get off of it, so I call him and we have these late night conversations, and I console him. It's one of the only selfless things I've done lately. And I'm like completely de-selflessness-ing it because I'm talking about it. But he always tells me that my voice is soothing and it's comforting. You know, it always makes him feel like less lonely in the like wee hours of the morning. And that's how Jeff's voice was for me. You know, it's just a familiar voice that I like to call. So when I was talking to him and I'm walking down, like, I don't know New York. I don't even remember where the building was. And I just knew that if I walked, I could find a bad area. You know, you got to realize I'm like 19, somewhere in there, like 19, somewhere between like 19 and 20, I want to say. I think originally I thought this storyline took place when I was like in my when I was 20. But by this point, I thought that, I had very little experience scoring in the ghettos at this point, right? I just knew that, like, you know, you start getting to bad areas, you can tell. There's like dudes with Adidas jumpsuits, like with like boom boxes, like, yo. You're like, oh, all right, that guy sells drugs. And someone's like, that is racist. And you're like, yeah. I bet he doesn't have shit. And he's like, yo, I got drugs. And you're like, oh, see, I knew it. Like, yeah, let me get something. And then he like burns you. I thought that I could just like stumble into like a bad area and it'd be like in Worcester. Now, I had the times that I've been in New York, we talked about this. It was interesting. We did do drugs out there, but people would like deliver them. There'd always be some guy on a bicycle with like a backpack, like a fanny pack or something. And they'd always have like all sorts of weird, like obscure drugs that they don't have on the West Coast. Yo, dude, I got poppers. Hey, look at this. This is called the sparkler fucking pipe. You smoke it and it sparkles. It's like, huh? It's like the weird East Coast drugs. So the phone just dies while I'm talking to Jeff. Okay, so I guess at the 12 minute mark is when the story really starts. And all of a sudden I'm like it's light. It's light out. People are walking to work, and people in New York are weird as fuck. They walk past you, they like shoulder check you. You really feel like you're like out of your element, like you're some like nice kid from like you're like from like the Midwest or something, and you're out in like the big East Coast city, and like everybody's scary and in suits. They're like, I'm going to stock trade, and my God, this is intimidating. I don't know. Never been around people dressed this nice, you know? So I remember this sense of like actually getting kind of scared, you know, like I didn't even like know how to score at this point. Like, yeah, I'd done it in Worcester, but I'd also gotten burned a lot of times when I was living out there. A lot of bad stuff had happened surrounding getting dope, and I really didn't know what to do, right? So I remember, and like it's just like busy stuff. I remember like getting to some sort of I guess a park or something. I don't know. It was a park, but it was like in the middle of like some busy ass urban street. But there was like a bench you could sit at. But it was like in between buildings. I don't know. They don't really have shit like that out here, but out there they do. And so I sit on this bench, and I'm just like, walking dope sick. I already sweat when I walk. I've never been like a big sweater. I'm not like one of those guys that when I have sex, like sweat just pours off of me. I don't have sex with dudes, but I've like had sex with girls that have had sex with dudes, and they're like, "Ew, he sweated so much, it was fucking disgusting." I've never been like that, but when I'm dope sick, it looks like I've been like in a sauna, right? There's just like sweat dripping off of me. And that's how it was this time. I was very sick, and just walking that little amount had like just made sweat just pour off of me. And I remember sitting on this bench, like looking and like watching all these New Yorkers like walk on the sidewalk. And it was one of those moments where, all these years later, this was probably, I don't know, 16, 17 years ago, I can remember just being like, what am I doing out here? And how am I going to, and more importantly, how am I going to get well right now? I had some money on me. So in my mind, I'm like, all right, I'm like doing like word math problems. I'm like, all right, if you have one black guy with a boombox, 2 Puerto Ricans, and 1 white guy, how do you get loaded? How do you get well? And that's what I thought. And I hate to look at things racially, but that's just like kind of what it's kind of like how I was schooled on the East Coast, is that everything is separated by race. It's almost like being in prison, and I had like learned not to trust black people and to trust the Puerto Ricans. We've talked about that before. Doesn't mean I was a racist guy. It's just how it was like how I navigated that world at that time. But one wild card was white people. And like, it just like dawned on me. I felt like I had like discovered some grisly murder from the 80s that had like nothing but like some ashy skeletal remains. And it's just like, oh my God, it's the fucking photographer that lives on 7th and Franklin. I like wanted to tell someone. No, I don't know. That's, why don't you just say you decided to get it from a white guy? Well, you got to make it all weird like that. So that was my plan. All right. Look for the shadiest white guy that I can, then he will lead me to drugs. Then I don't have to worry about this like cultural shit lost in translation, because it's already lost in translation when you're from the West Coast and you go to the East Coast. It gets further complicated when it's a racial thing. So I'm like, and by the way, for those of you that like my book, Wasting Talent, you might recognize this situation from that book. So I'm like looking at white, I'm like, all right, there has to be some white guy that doesn't look like he belongs. I'm looking at everybody. People are like, have briefcases, suits, lattes. I'm like, God damn it. None of these people look like they might have drugs. And I see the most haggard white dude. Like, so what's funny, people on the East Coast, like I always say, look older than people on the West Coast. And like, when they dress like a scumbag, they dress way scummier. I see this guy with like fishnet stockings and a trench coat. I'm not even joking. I don't know if it was fishnet stockings, but he had like these weird, like I don't know, it was like net shit, like as his legging. It looked like leg warmer. It like was fishnet stockings. And I was like, yo. And he looks at me and he's like he's on a mission. Like, you can tell this dude got up, did some sort of drug, took a fat blast of crack, did some crystal meth. Who knows what he did? But he is on a mission to go do something worse, you know? And I'm like, yeah. He like turned around. He looked even like scummier than like I had profiled him from the side. He turns around. He's like missing half of his face. No, that's that part I just made up. But yeah, he looked really, I was like, oh, that guy's a drug addict for sure. He comes up to me, he's like, yo, dude, what's up, dude? What you need? And I was like, yeah, hey man, you know, I got a situation. I'm from California. He's like, oh, fucking California. He's like, I love it down there. I get all my fish stockings from California. They send it to me personally from fucking Hollywood. Everyone ever tells you that you look good in fish stockings yourself. Whatever he was saying to me, he was saying some weird, like, trying to strike a conversation to, like, prove he's human. But I was, like, I was like, I don't care, man. I just want drugs from you. And I explained. He's like, oh, no shit. Dude, you're fucking sick right now? Oh, dude, you flagged the right weirdo, you know what I'm saying? Look at all these other people. And like, I swear to God, as he's saying this, I'm looking over and I'm seeing like so many other white people that look scummy, that look way more qualified than him to help me find drugs. But they're like not wearing like the weird shit that he has. He has like some skeleton earring, like it looks like a clip-on earring that you get in like a pirate costume at like a costume shop for Halloween. And you just see like some like skeleton, like, with like, you know, I was like, what the fuck? And he's like, yeah, he's like, dude, you know, my boy's like, it was like 4 or 5 blocks up. You know, we could go, you know, hey, I don't know what you're trying to spend, but you could give me the money. I could go into the building. I can get the dope. I can bring the dope out. And you, my friend, are going to feel a hell of a lot better. And I was like, even in my sick state, I knew not to give this guy money, right? This is just this common, constant thing in the street when people are trying to hustle like that. People are always trying to get money out of you. I was like, I'm not going to give you any money unless you give me the dope. He's like, well, then get up. You're walking with me to my friend's house. I was like, all right, cool. Like, we're walking, and he's like, and I'm like, hey, is your friend cool? He's like, dude, my friend's the cool. Are you fucking, yeah, he's cool. And I'm like, well, if he's so cool, then why did you say at first that you had to like take the money up there and you couldn't? Dude, I tell you, you know, I say that to everyone. What if you're a cop? I say, you know, hey, come on, man. I'm like, all right. Guy's a little weird. I mean, I got a gay vibe, and like that's cool. Like, nothing against gay people, but the fishnet stockings and the clip-on like skeleton earring kind of, you know, threw me for pause. And I remember walking the blocks with him, but it's that funny thing with heroin or any opioid for that matter, opiate or opioid, and yes, there's a big difference between the two. One of the opioid is synthetic. Opiate is derived from the poppy plant, morphine or heroin. Opioid is like the prescription painkillers and all that shit. There's this weird thing where, you know, your mind is so powerful that when you think that you're going to get dope, you don't have to physically have the dope in your system. Just knowing that you're going to be getting it, you fucking feel better. Just walking with this scumbag made me feel like I wasn't dope sick anymore. Or at least not as dope sick. Like your mind gets distracted by the possibility that you're going to get it. Now, I have a lot of friends to this day. Back in that time period, right? I was 19 years old. Back in that time period, cocaine and heroin were like brother and sister. They were like salt and pepper. They were like, most of my friends that shot heroin also shot cocaine or smoked cocaine. And it was just very common that the two drugs were around each other. That's changed now, you know, from 2004, 2005, the era that I'm telling the story in, to like 2021. Now, crystal methamphetamine and heroin are a much more popular combination. And usually people that do heroin also do meth and vice versa. So what I've noticed about my tweaker friends is that they don't get sick. Like, it doesn't matter how big their habit is, they just don't get sick. And they're in my opinion, I'm usually not around somebody that's like kicking for like more than 2 or 3 days. I don't like to, you know, I don't like to hang out with people that are like going in and out like that, because I'm just such a weak motherfucker. Like, I'll be like, yeah, dude, I'll help you get clean. It's not like I'll be like, dude, let's get high. Please help me. I'm being held sober against my will. All right, let's get out of here. I got keys to a car. It's like my own car. I'm like, yeah, it's stolen. I'm like trying to get street credit. And I think that the meth distracts you. You know, you're so twacked out. You're thinking about sticking shampoo bottles up your ass, whatever it is. The last thing you're thinking about is being sick. And I think when you dwell on it, you think about being sick, I honestly believe that it makes you sicker. So it's weird. My meth addict friends that also do heroin, when they run out of heroin, they seem not to get as dope sick as just the straight heroin addicts. And you try to do cocaine when you're dope sick, it's awful. It'll make you projectile vomit. So I felt better, right, without actually getting anything. And we're walking, and at first he was talking to me, And he's like, I forget, he started telling me this like weird, like idea, like some weird patent that he had or something about, like he was gonna breed, this like, some sort of like pet that they didn't have in America. He's like, dude, they're like the size of a tennis ball. And they're kind of like dogs, but they stay the size of a tennis ball forever. I was like, can you hit them with a tennis racket? Dude, yeah, of course you can. They're not even fucking pets that you would normally know about. Nobody cares about these stupid fucks. I'm going to make a fortune off it. We are going to blow up together, brother. We are going to make money together doing this animal scam. This animal con. I was like, okay. They're telling me this kind of shit. So we end up getting to a much more ghetto place. Now, like, I can see, like, hookers, they're, like, street walking. It's, like, 7:30 in the morning. I'm like, Jesus Christ. Like, what John comes and gets street walking prostitutes that are strutting the boulevard at, like, 7:30 a.m.? Crystal meth addicts, that's who. So we end up getting to this, like, big-ass, building. Kind of reminds me of the building that Becky was at, right? At this point, I've like gone with him so deep down into the rabbit hole, like into the bad parts of New York, that like I don't even know where we are, and I have no idea where the apartment from the businesswoman and from her sister, no idea where that is. So we get there, and of course, this guy's good. He like has short-term memory loss or something, and forgets that I'd already told him I was going to part with the money. He's like, "What? Dude, I'm running into the complex. How can I burn you? You're being fucking irrational. Come on, man. I'll give you my fucking earring." He like unclips it. I'm like, "Look, dude, I'm not giving you my money unless you show me the dope." All right, man. All right. Yeah. How much do you want? I don't remember what I wanted, but it was like $40 worth or something. He's like, all right, I usually don't go out of my way for dudes that flag me down in the morning, that are from the other side of the country that want drugs, but I kind of like you, and I'm going to go in there, and I'm going to see what I can do. I'm going to see what I can do for you. I'm like, I really appreciate that. In the book Wasting Talent, I named the character Caspa over this guy. Just some really strange street character guy that I had run into at that, And so he disappears into this building. I sit down on the curb out front, and I don't know, it was like, it was such a bad area that it really smelled bad. Like bad scents were like wafting through the air. And I got nauseous. And I remember folding a little bit and puking. And I just like puke like warm acidic bile right onto the street. It's like it's the kind of vomit where like, it's not because you drank too much. It's because you're straight up kicking. And in normal places, if I was just puking on a curb at 7:30, 8 in the morning like that, I don't think anybody would have noticed, right? I mean, in a normal area, if I was puking like that, I think people would have noticed. Because I was in the ghetto, nobody seemed to care. I literally am just like puking my brains out because I'm starting to get really sick. An interesting thing happens when you're dope sick like that and you're throwing up. You lose like this weird ability to like it's like you start sneezing, it's like having like some sort of allergic reaction to like a pollen or something. And so you're throwing up and you're puking. You're puking and you're sneezing at the same time, which is incredibly interesting. Like it feels like you're doing something like awful, it's like, this cannot be good for you. Think about that. It's like torpedoing your vomit stream into different directions. It's awful. I'm just dying, right? This guy, Caspa, or whatever his fucking name is, he takes forever. I don't know how long, but if I had to guess, like well over an hour, right? And I'd thrown up so much that the back of my throat was singed. I didn't have any more vomit in me. I was just coughing and I was like holding my stomach. And I'm like, I look like into the office, like I'm like looking up at like the door that he disappeared, and it looks like a fucking desert mirage. And just see some like cartoon syringe. It's like voluptuous. It has like boobs. I'm like, ah, but I can't do anything. Finally shows back up like an hour later. Like I said, he's like, dude, I got it. I got the door. All right, chill out. Oh my God, did you puke? Jesus Christ. He's like, all right. Come on. We can't do it right here. I'm going to take you somewhere we can do it. I was like, all right, cool. Like, again, it's one of those things where in my mind, I'm relieved because he brought the dope. He doesn't show it to me because he's also one of these guys that's like extremely paranoid. Thinks that, you know, the feds are building a case because he's middlemaning 40 sacks of fucking heroin at, 8 in the morning in Manhattan. Very doubtful. So he ends up bringing me to, ironically enough, somewhere similar to the first time that I shot dope. It was like an abandoned stairwell. Now, I'd never asked him for needles, nothing like that. But we get to the stairwell, and I'm like salivating. I'm like I need something so bad. I'm like drooling. And he's like, all right, man, let me get the money. I like happily take it. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to tip you $10 too. Takes the money and he hands me a pill. Now, I was aware that in other parts of the country, the opioid pill epidemic was raging on. This is 2004 or 5, and the OxyContin epidemic was like, it was the big thing. Everybody was talking about how this OxyContin, this hillbilly heroin was coming and just taking over and ravaging the South and parts of the Midwest and the East Coast. And it just really hadn't hit that hard on the West Coast, at least not in the areas that I was in. Like, we could still get heroin, like, very, very easily. Oh, my God. The worst fucking headache. So I'm like, what is this? He's like, what is it? He's like, dude, it's fucking heroin in a pill, bro. Duh. So I'm like, dude, this is not what I wanted. I wanted heroin. He's like, why don't you say it loud so that other people in this abandoned building can fucking hear you? Jesus Christ, show some goddamn gratitude. I got you the heroin pill, do it. I was like, there's no such thing as a heroin pill. He's like, oh, for fuck's sake. I'm like, did you bring some rigs? He's like, what does that mean? I'm using like West Coast, like sublime lingo, like shit that Southsiders would say. He doesn't even know what a rig is. He's like, are you talking about works? You talking about a needle? You talking about a needle and a fucking I don't have shit like that. Jesus Christ, man. Fuck. He's like, snort it. It's heroin in a pill. You can snort it. Why would you want to inject it? You can snort it. Just for the people speculating. That was ibuprofen. The link will be in the pinned comments. No, I'm just kidding. I was really desperate at this point. Like, I didn't care. I was like, OxyContin. I had read about it. I knew that it was very similar to heroin. I'm not going to say that it's the same thing, but I knew that if I ingested some of this pill, however I did, if I was going to snort it, smoke it, whatever, that I was going to get some relief. I was like, all right, whatever. And this guy's like watching me like it's some wild science experiment. I look at the pill and it's a little white pill. I didn't know much about Oxycontins. I knew like as much as like concerned parents did. I saw like the ominous green pills like on the cover of like Newsweek and shit, and I was like, wow, those guys' lives are way worse than mine. I'm gonna go do black tar. I'm way better, It's like I was still in that phase of it. So we're like sitting in the stairwell, and I just start crushing up the pill. Probably got a lighter and $1 or whatever I was doing. And I crush up half of it because he's like, look, he's like, my boy says that this isn't just regular heroin. This is like really fucking strong, boy, is what he said. So just do half of it. If you do that for me, do it for old Casper. And I'm like looking at this like weird ass guy, trench coat, fishnet stockings. And I'm just like, dude, shut the fuck up. So I end up crushing the entire thing. Like I was planning on just doing half of it, but I crushed up the whole pill. I think it's like out of spite because I'm mad at this guy. He led me on. He told me he was going to go get me heroin, and here he is bringing me some heroin pill that I've never heard of, and it's white. Doesn't even look like a real one. Like in my mind, I've already prepared for the fact that I'm probably going to get burned by this guy. And I snorted. Whole pill. He's like, Jesus. He's like, you got a nose like a fucking vacuum. I've never seen anything in my life like it. If you overdose, I'm gonna take off. I'm not telling nobody that I got you that heroin pill. I was like, stop calling it that. Like, that's like our first problem. Stop saying that out loud. You didn't give me a heroin pill. You got me an opiate to get me some relief because I'm sick. He was like, yeah, no, exactly. That's what I meant. That was interesting. I don't think I had done... No, I hadn't. I hadn't done an Oxycontin at that point in my life. In high school, I fucked with prescription painkillers a bit. It was like, honestly, I know this sounds stupid, but listening to Eminem had influenced us so profoundly, and he had always talked about snorting Vicodin, so it's like we would do that too. We're like, yeah, we snort Vicodin too, yeah. There's a little bit of Slim Shady in all of us. How you doing? So I didn't know what to expect, and we used to snort Vicodin, even though that barely does anything to you. We used to snort Vicodin, like, we'd like snort it with cocaine, and we'd snort it like when we were out there partying. Anyway, what I did remember from snorting it was that you get a drip and you kind of start feeling the effect of the opiate right away. Now that didn't happen with this. It was like pretty shitty grip, but I didn't feel any effect, Just got this like gross chemically drip without anything. And this guy was being super, so you fucking high off that heroin pill or what, man? Because I got places I gotta be. I'm just making, I like you. We spent a lot of time together now. We've been together like 30 minutes now. A little longer than that because he had left. But like, yeah, the amount of time we'd spent together was probably 30 minutes. Probably together, like, since I met up with him, I've been hanging out with him for like an hour and a half, whatever. He's like really like interested if this stuff had done something for me. He's like, so? Do you feel high? Do you feel razzed up now? I'm like, no, I don't feel shit. Give me my money back. I got burned. Because I'm thinking for sure that this guy just sent me some like vitamin or something. He's like, no, just give it some time. My friend said this stuff is strong. It's gonna kick in, and you're gonna be high as a fucking kite, bro. 15 minutes go by, nothing. 20 minutes go by, nothing. Then all of a sudden, and he's like, he's got annoying. He's like, has his like face folded in his hands, shit like that. And out of nowhere, I just start feeling it. I start sweating. I start panicking. I'm like, wait a second. I start feeling way sicker than I was when I'd first met up with him. Like, I feel like I'm kicking, but it's like super amplified by like a level that I'd never experienced kicking dope on. And I started screaming. I was like, what is this? I didn't know what it was. I was petrified. I did not know that I was in precipitated withdrawal, meaning, that if you take a partial antagonist like Suboxone or Subutex, and you mix it with the full antagonist, like heroin or, you know, a lot of the opioids, it puts you in precipitated withdrawal. We've talked about that before. It sends you into this like nightmarish, completely unreasonable, heightened sense of withdrawal. And I'm screaming at him. I'm like, what did you give me? Give me the money back. Give me the money back. I think I'm screaming at this guy so hard that I'm like freaking him out. He's like, dude. He's like trying to put his hand on my shoulder. Get off of me! It was the first time in my life that I had experienced anything like that, you know, and it's a scary thing. I mean, it's just as bad as cotton fever, which is when you inject bacteria. People think it's when you inject like cotton fibers. From my experience and what doctors have told me, it's not from the cotton fibers, it's just from bacteria getting in your blood. When you get cotton fever, you shake uncontrollably, you throw up a bunch. It's really traumatic. It's like the kind of thing that a lot of people get and they're like, oh, that was super uncomfortable. Yeah, I'm not going to do that again. You know, not me. I'm a fucking junkie and I'm just like, oh, that was uncomfortable. But the rest of this whole situation, like the fact that I don't have any friends, I don't have a car, I don't have a job, no girlfriend. Think about it. I'm basically free. I love what I do. I love being strung out, you know, shit like that. So that was like the scariest part about that is I'm in New York. I don't even know where I am in New York. I don't know this guy very well. And I remember I started thinking that he had given me acid for some reason. Like that's how young and naive I was. I thought that because the feeling was so intense. And if anybody's ever kicked heroin, you know, like when you're waiting to induct on Suboxone, like there's periods where you're dope sick or even after you induct where it literally feels like acid. You know, maybe not the visuals, but sometimes with acid you get a very, very dirty body high, you know, and that's how I felt. I felt like I had like a really dirty body high. And I'm screaming. This guy's like, I honestly don't think he meant to. I think what it was a subutext, or it could have just been like some other form of like pure buprenorphine, because that's what they used to sell in Europe. This was in New York, so like a lot of those like drugs from London do make their way to oh shit, fuck, dude. Ugh. Hate when I don't put it on airplane mode. Anyway, no, it's my dad about my mom, and now it's like distracting the shit out of me. So I'm tripping that I'm in precipitated withdrawal, right? I don't know what it is. That's the worst part. I think this guy like drugged me with like acid or something. I mean, I'm like 19, so I'm assuming the worst. I'm like, oh my God, this guy gave me some sort of hallucinogen. He's gonna butt fuck me. The worst part is I'm gonna die and people are gonna be like, oh, butt fucked and then killed. Karma, huh? Yeah. Guy burned me in high school. Yeah, that's what I said. Good thing he died, right? Piece of shit junkie. Burn in hell, Ryan. Burn in hell. Fuck you. You owe me $30. You know, shit like that. So, I remember being like panicked and like telling myself that I had to get away from this guy. Like, that was like, it seemed like it was of utmost importance to me at that point. Like, I just had to get away from him because I felt like this guy had bad intentions with me. Maybe that was just like my panic or like a sense of like paranoia, but I don't think that it was unfounded. This guy was really weird. He had like fishnet stockings, and now I feel like I'm on acid because of some pill that he gave me that he said had heroin inside of it, and it just made me feel worse than I've ever felt in my entire life. So I start screaming. Right? I'm like just screaming at the top of my lungs, and I'm running out of this abandoned building, and I run out to the street and I'm like, help me! Because I'm panicking on that level. Like seriously, like when I was in county jail and it's like, man down! Man down! It was like the same kind of thing. And like as I get into the street, I like run, there's like taxis like swerving, like almost hitting me. And I'm like, somebody help me! And a fucking horse pulls up to me, a horse cop. They're on horses out in New York. This like horse cop pulls up to me. He's like wearing like a black NYPD jacket and shit. And he's on a horse. Looks down at me. He's like, what the hell is wrong with you? I was like, this guy's trying to drug me. I like literally like told on this guy that was like trying to help me. Now, I didn't like tell on him. Like, I didn't even know like what this guy's name was. And he wasn't with me at that point, by the way. Like, you know, I mean, now that I'm a convict and doing all the time that I did, I shouldn't have done that. Like, you should never interact with cops like that, you know? Like, especially like someone that just scored you drugs. But in my mind, I really did think that this guy was like trying to kill me. And the cop didn't seem to give a fuck about this guy. He was like more upset that I was like disturbing the peace. And he's like, listen, I need to get you off the side. You need to get off the fucking sidewalk. Get off the sidewalk. Who cares if somebody's selling you bunk drugs? Get the fuck out of here, you fucking prick. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. I could be in danger. He's like, get the fuck back on the sidewalk. Get back on the sidewalk. Stop holding up traffic. So your parents didn't give you enough fucking attention, you little spoiled brat. And I was like, Jesus Christ. I was like, this guy is good. You know what? I heard a lot of bad things about NYPD, but I gotta be honest, this guy's incredible. So, this is a very important part of the story because I had told the police that some guy had sold me some fucked up drugs, right? And that's what it was like. And I never tell cops that I'm on drugs. Just I was a young kid, and in that particular instance, I just decided that I should tell him, right? I don't know. I was being a fucking idiot. You know, or I just was kind of like being naive or whatever. God, why does my dad keep blowing me up? So, cop won't help me, and I keep going down the street, right? I don't see Casper at this point. Like, he I don't know, he kind of disappears. Now, in my mind, like, being in precipitated withdrawal is bad enough. Like, if you're, like, by yourself, somewhere, or, like, even if you're, like, in an apartment with people you know. But when you're in, like, a city that you're not familiar with, and you're around a shitload of people, herds of people that are going up and down the sidewalks and, like, being busy in Manhattan, it's really bad. You know, you're petrified. It's scary. God, my dad keeps calling. I gotta take this right now. But I will continue this story. I'm sorry. I was only planning on doing about 40 minutes of this anyway, so I went a little bit over. But just know that I'm in precipitated withdrawal, and I tried to tell a cop that Casper sold me these drugs. You know? I mean, I didn't point him out. I just said somebody did that. Like, somebody sold me fake drugs. Now I'm sick. The cop's like, I don't care, pal. Get out of the street. Get out of the street. You kook? Get out of the street. Or the sidewalk. And we will continue this in the next installment of this 4th of July story. And then we're going to get back into the other storylines and tie up a bunch of loose ends. Thank you guys. Palabra.